Sullivan's Crossing's most infuriating habit must end after Season 3 Cliffhanger. You know that sinking feeling when a show plays you for a fool, when a final promises a revolution, only to start the next season acting like it never happened. Yeah, Sullivan's Crossing just pulled that trick again, and this time fans are furious. Because that cliffhanger at the end of Season 3, it wasn't just shocking, it was manipulative. Picture it, Maggie and Cal finally get their moment. After 3 seasons of emotional whiplash, they're on the same page. Love, stability, a future. And then boom, Liam walks in with the line that broke the fandom. Is that any way to greet your husband? Like, excuse me, husband, what timeline are we even in right now? And here's the worst part, we've seen this trick before. Because Sullivan's Crossing has a dirty little secret. One the writers don't want us talking about. It's a pattern. A storytelling habit. They build tension, leave you gasping in the finale, and then, poof, next season, nothing. Like it never happened. Gone vanished. It's like emotional amnesia is part of the show's DNA. Remember Season 1's big ending? Sully collapses, the truth about the accident comes out, we're promised a reckoning, and Season 2 begins with, what? A stroke, a miracle recovery, and the entire storyline erased. Sully's guilt? Gone. Lola's trauma? Magically resolved. That life-changing reveal became a 48-hour fever dream. And I'm sorry, but how many times can a show reset itself before fans stop caring? This isn't just lazy writing, it's betrayal disguised as plot. Because every time Sullivan's Crossing drops a cliffhanger, we expect emotional consequences. We expect growth. But instead, it's like pressing rewind on a soap opera that's terrified of letting its characters change. Now, if you're a loyal fan, and let's be real, you probably are if you've made it this far, you've already felt this frustration. The kind that makes you yell at the screen, don't you dare undo this next season. And guess what? They always do. But let's rewind to that Season 3 finale for a second. Because Liam's return isn't just a random twist, it's the ultimate test for whether this show has learned from its past. Maggie Sullivan has spent 3 seasons trying to build something real with Cal. Through career drama, family chaos, emotional burnouts, she's evolved. So when Liam shows up calling her wife, it's not just shocking, it's destabilizing. It undercuts everything she's fought for. And fans noticed. You could feel it across Reddit threads, Twitter reactions, and Facebook groups. The collective scream of, don't you dare drop this storyline. Because the fear isn't that Liam's story will be wild. The fear is that it'll be forgotten. And honestly, can you blame anyone for thinking that? Let's track the evidence. Because this isn't a one-time fluke. This is a habit that Sullivan's Crossing keeps sweeping under the rug. Season 1 ends with Sully's tragic secret. A man haunted by guilt, a family on the edge. Season 2 begins and suddenly Sully's fine. Lola remembers something convenient, and we all move on like that trauma was just a bad dream. No long-term fallout, no real consequence. Season 2 ends with a literal explosion. A diner in flames, Sully missing, Maggie pregnant, chaos everywhere. And then Season 3 strolls in like, anyway, here's Maggie with coffee and Sully looking brand new. Excuse me, what? Did we all hallucinate that explosion? You can't gaslight your audience and expect loyalty. And here's where the real tension lies. Sullivan's Crossing keeps acting like fans won't remember, like emotional investment has an expiration date. But if you've been watching since day one, you do remember. Every drop plotline, every reconned emotion, was all a misunderstanding. That's why the Liam twist feels so dangerous. Because if they pull the same disappearing act in Season 4, it won't just be disappointing, it'll break trust. And that's the thing with serialized drama, once you break emotional trust, you lose everything. Now, let me pause here, because if you love deep dives like this, and you actually want TV shows to be held accountable for the stories they tell, then subscribe to Breakdown Epic right now. I promise, we don't just recap, we expose what these writers don't want you to see. Alright, let's get back to the mystery. Why does Sullivan's Crossing keep erasing its own cliffhangers? Why spend emotional currency building tension, only to cash out in the first 5 minutes of the next season? Here's the secret, it's fear. This show, like so many comfort dramas, is terrified of change. It wants high-stakes endings but safe, cozy beginnings. It wants the illusion of growth without the consequences that come with it. Because consequences make viewers uncomfortable, and Sullivan's Crossing thrives on comfort. The cabins, the small-town warmth, the second chances. But real second chances come after chaos, after heartbreak, after fallout. That's what makes this so maddening. Every time the show pulls back just as things get messy, it's robbing its own characters of evolution. Think about it. Sully could have had a full redemption arc confronting his past. Maggie could have grown from the trauma of losing her baby. Cal could have actually faced his fear of fatherhood. Those are powerful human stories, the kind that make people feel. Instead, we get emotional resets and convenient excuses. And now Liam, the man from Maggie's past, the husband reveal, could have been the perfect twist to finally push Maggie into uncharted territory. But if Season 4 opens with her laughing it off or saying, it was complicated, we're right back to square one. And honestly, how many squares does this board even have left? Because here's the forbidden truth the writers don't want us thinking about. Sullivan's Crossing isn't afraid of big moments. It's afraid of what happens after them. The drama is easy. The follow-through, that's where most shows die. But not every show hides it this well. Here's the forbidden knowledge no one at the network wants to admit. Shows like Sullivan's Crossing use cliffhangers not as storytelling tools, but as marketing weapons. It's not about narrative payoff, it's about retention. That final, "Is that any way to greet your husband?" wasn't written for emotional impact. It was written to make sure you tuned in next season. It's the same strategy soap operas perfected decades ago. Create chaos then hit reset. The illusion of movement without the danger of change. But audiences in 2025 are smarter than that. We binge, we rewatch, we analyze, we remember. So when Sullivan's Crossing tries to trick us into emotional amnesia, it doesn't just frustrate us, it insults us. Because we see the cracks. We notice when Maggie's supposed trauma disappears by episode 2. We catch it when Sully's miracle recovery gets brushed off with one line of dialogue. And here's where the real irony kicks in. This show is supposed to be about healing, forgiveness, and emotional truth. But it keeps refusing to confront its own truth. That it's scared of making its characters actually suffer. Let's test this with a quick poll for everyone watching. If you were writing Sullivan's Crossing, would you let Maggie actually be married to Liam? Yes or no? Drop it in the comments. Because honestly, I'd love to see how many of you would actually dare to let that chaos play out. Because that's what great storytelling does. It dares. Imagine this season 4 opens, and instead of undoing it, we see Maggie and Liam's marriage was real. She thought it was annulled, but it wasn't. Cal finds out. Trust shatters. Maggie has to confront not just her past mistakes, but who she's become. That's the version of Sullivan's Crossing that could actually evolve. But we both know what's likely coming. A quick joke. Just kidding. And a return to status quo. Because God forbid a Hallmark-adjacent drama gets messy. You ever notice how every time Maggie gets close to a genuine emotional breakthrough, the writers pull the rug, like when she miscarried? Instead of exploring grief, they used it to reset her relationship arc. Like when Sully's drinking relapse hinted at deeper pain, only for him to be miraculously fine again. The pattern's almost scientific. And here's where I'll admit something. Part of me still loves this show. Yeah, I said it. Maybe that's my emotional weakness. Maybe I'm just hooked on the promise that this time, the writers will actually follow through. But that's also why I get so frustrated. Because Sullivan's Crossing has everything it needs to be brilliant. A talented cast, emotional potential, and a setting that begs for realism. Yet every time we're about to cross the bridge into true emotional territory, the writers turn the car around. Here's a hypothetical for you. What if the show's biggest strength, its comforting tone, is also its biggest weakness? What if every cliffhanger is secretly a promise the network knows it won't keep, because keeping it would make the show too real for its brand? That's the forbidden knowledge of television. Not every show is designed to evolve. Some are designed to loop forever, giving the illusion of change while keeping you emotionally stuck, just like the characters. And Sullivan's Crossing might be the perfect example. Now, before you say, Sophia, it's just a feel-good drama, think about this. Would you keep watching if the stakes never mattered? If every season ended with fireworks but started with amnesia? Because sooner or later, even comfort TV stops feeling comforting when it keeps lying to you. And that's where season 4 stands at the edge of something dangerous. Because Liam isn't just a character, he's a mirror. He forces the writers to choose continuity or convenience. If they write him off too quickly, they prove the show will never change. But if they lean in, if they let the chaos breathe, Sullivan's Crossing could finally become the emotional powerhouse it's always teased us with. And look, maybe I'm being too optimistic. Maybe season 4 will open with a breakfast scene, everyone pretending nothing happened, and fans rolling their eyes like, of course they did. But part of me hopes the writers are watching these conversations, the frustration, the memes, the endless "what happened to Sully?" threads, and realizing they can't keep hitting reset forever. So here's my challenge to them: let the mess stick. Let Maggie's decisions have weight. Let Cal's fear of fatherhood actually matter. Let the audience feel the consequences you keep teasing and taking away. Because if Sullivan's Crossing keeps treating its cliffhangers like clickbait, fans will eventually stop clicking. And for the rest of you watching right now, tell me in the comments. What's the one storyline you want the writers to finally follow through on? Do you want Maggie to face Liam, Cal to confront his fear, Sully to actually pay for his past? I read every single one, and trust me, your opinions hit harder than you think. Because this community, our community, we don't just watch shows, we dissect them, we call out the patterns, we expose the secrets hiding behind small-town smiles. So yeah, maybe Sullivan's Crossing drives us insane, but that's also why we keep coming back. Because underneath all the frustration there's still hope. Hope that one day, the story will finally stay changed. And if that day ever comes, you know I'll be right here, breaking it down with you. Because that's what we do on Breakdown Epic. Until next time, keep your theories wild, your patience short, and your expectations cautiously optimistic. Because in Sullivan's Crossing, even when nothing changes, the drama never ends.